Do it, hurry up. The rancher's one choice changed everything. The plains were unusually quiet that afternoon. For a man like Elias Turner, quiet usually meant peace. He had chosen this life, long days under an open sky, hard work, and solitude that asked nothing of him. The ranch sat miles from the nearest town, and he liked it that way. No voices, no demands, just land, wind, and routine. That was why the sound stopped him cold. Do it, hurry up. The words were weak but urgent, carried by the wind from beyond the old storage shed near the edge of his property. Elias froze, his hand still resting on the fence post he had been checking. For a moment, he thought his mind was playing tricks on him. The plains had a way of doing that. Loneliness could turn silence into echoes. Then he heard it again. Please don't wait. Elias moved quickly now, boots crunching over dry earth as he rounded the shed. Dust hung thick in the air, stirred by something that had collapsed recently. That's when he saw her. A young Apache woman lay pinned beneath a fallen beam and broken planks. Part of the old structure caved in on itself. Her breathing was shallow, her face streaked with dirt and sweat. One arm was trapped, twisted at an angle that made Elias' stomach tighten. He knelt beside her immediately, careful not to touch anything yet. Years of ranch work had taught him one thing: panic caused more harm than help. Don't move, he said calmly, though his heart was racing. I'm here. She looked at him, eyes sharp despite the pain. There was no pleading in them, only urgency. If you wait, she said, her voice strained but steady, I won't last. Elias swallowed. He scanned the wreckage, assessing weight, angles, and pressure points. One wrong move could crush her further, but doing nothing was no longer an option. How long have you been here? He asked. Since morning, she replied. They left me. The words settled heavily between them. Elias didn't ask who. The answer lived in the silence. The wind picked up, rattling loose boards. Elias wiped sweat from his brow and looked at her again. She wasn't crying. She wasn't begging. She was trusting him to act. Tell me where it hurts most, he said. She exhaled slowly. Everywhere, but don't stop. Elias rose and grabbed a thick wooden post nearby, positioning it under the beam as a lever. His muscles tensed as he tested the weight. The structure groaned in protest. On 3, he said, you tell me if it's too much. She nodded once. 1, Elias said, bracing himself. The plains held their breath. 2. The moment stretched thin as wire. And when he reached 3, Elias pushed, knowing that from this second on, whatever happened next would change both their lives forever. The beam didn't move at first. Elias pushed harder, muscles tightening, boots digging into the dirt for leverage. The wood groaned again, louder this time, as if the structure itself resisted being disturbed. Dust fell in thick clouds, stinging his eyes and filling his lungs. He coughed but didn't stop. Easy, the woman said through clenched teeth. Slow, but don't stop. Her voice steadied him. Elias adjusted the post, shifting the angle just enough to change the pressure. He pushed again. This time, the beam lifted, only an inch, but enough to matter. The woman gasped sharply, pain flashing across her face as blood rushed back into her trapped arm. Tell me if it's too much, Elias said, breathing hard. She shook her head. If you stop, it will be worse. So he didn't. He pushed again, inch by inch, refusing to rush but refusing to hesitate. The beam creaked, threatening collapse, but Elias held steady until there was enough space to slide her arm free. He lowered the weight carefully, letting the beam settle against the post instead of her body. The woman slumped forward, free at last. Elias caught her before she hit the ground, easing her gently onto her side. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the wind moving through dry grass and the woman's uneven breathing. You did it, she said finally, voice hoarse. Elias exhaled, realizing only now how tightly he'd been holding his breath. You're safe, he said, for now. She shook her head slightly. Out here, for now, is all anyone ever has. Elias carefully examined her arm. It was badly bruised, swollen, but not broken, at least not visibly. He tore a strip from his shirt and wrapped it loosely to support it. "What's your name?" he asked. "Naya," she replied after a pause. "I'm Elias." He helped her sit up, keeping movements slow and deliberate. She winced but didn't cry out. That strength impressed him more than words could have. "How did this happen?" Elias asked. Naya looked toward the open plains, eyes narrowing. "Men who wanted the land without paying for it," she said. "They leave messages like this to scare others." Elias clenched his jaw. He had heard stories, never close enough to matter before. Now one of those stories was sitting in front of him, injured on his land. He glanced around, suddenly aware of how exposed they were. "We need to get you inside," he said. "My farmhouse isn't far." She studied him for a moment, measuring something deeper than his words. Then she nodded. "I don't have another choice." Elias fetched his horse and helped her stand. Her legs shook, but she stayed upright with his support. Slowly, they made their way toward the house, the broken shed fading behind them. As they walked, Elias felt the weight of what he had done settle over him, not regret, but responsibility. Acting had been necessary, what followed would not be simple. The plains stretched wide and indifferent around them. But for the first time, Elias knew he was no longer just passing through his own life. He had stepped into it. The farmhouse came into view just as the sun began to lower, casting long shadows across the land. Elias slowed his pace, careful not to jar Naya as she leaned against him. Every step was measured, every breath mattered. Inside, the cabin was simple: one room, a small stove, a wooden table worn smooth by time. Elias eased Naya onto a chair near the fire and fetched water from the pump. She watched him closely, her gaze never leaving his movements. "You don't have to stay," she said quietly. "When they realize I'm gone, they'll come looking." Elias handed her the cup. "You need rest. We'll deal with tomorrow when it arrives." She drank slowly, then nodded. Trust was not given freely out here, it was earned in moments like this. Elias cleaned her wounds as gently as he could. The skin was swollen, marked by hours of pressure and exposure. As he worked, Naya spoke in fragments, how she had been traveling through the area, how the men had accused her of trespassing, how fear was used like a fence to claim land. "They don't want witnesses," she said. "They want silence." Outside, the wind shifted. Elias felt it before he heard anything else. Hoofbeats, distant but deliberate. He stiffened and moved toward the window. Peering out through the glass, 3 riders appeared on the horizon, moving slowly along the fence line, not rushing, not hiding. "They're early," Naya said, reading his posture. Elias picked up his rifle, not aiming it, just holding it. "Stay here," he said, "out of sight." She stood anyway, pain or no pain. "If they see only you, they'll lie." The riders stopped a short distance away. One of them raised a hand in mock greeting. "Evening, rancher," the man called. "We're looking for something that wandered off." Elias stepped outside, closing the door behind him. The air felt heavier now, charged with intent. "There's nothing here that belongs to you," Elias replied evenly. The man laughed. "That's not what we were told." Naya stepped into the doorway, visible now, standing tall despite her injuries. The rider's expressions changed, not surprise, but irritation. "You should have left her," one of them said. "Would have saved trouble." Elias didn't move. "You don't get to decide that." Silence stretched thin. The men studied the land, the house, the rifle in Elias' hands. They were measuring risk. "This isn't finished," the leader said at last. "You've made yourself noticeable." "That's fine," Elias answered. "So have you." The riders turned their horses and rode off, dust trailing behind them like a warning. Elias waited until they disappeared before lowering his rifle. Naya exhaled slowly. "They'll be back." "I know," Elias said. That night neither of them slept. Elias sat at the table, rifle within reach, eyes on the door. Naya rested nearby, watching the firelight dance across the walls. Out on the plains, silence returned, but it no longer felt empty. It felt watched. Morning arrived without warning. The sky lightened slowly, pale blue bleeding into gold as the sun climbed over the plains. Elias had not slept. He remained seated at the table, rifle resting across his knees, listening to every sound the land offered. Wind in the grass, the creak of wood, the distant call of birds beginning their day. Naya stirred near the fire, pushing herself upright with effort. Her arm was stiff, pain etched across her face, but her eyes were clear. "They won't wait long," she said. "Men like that don't." Elias nodded. "Then we don't either." He stepped outside and walked the fence line, checking each post, each open stretch of land. There was nowhere to hide, and he wasn't planning to. Before noon, dust appeared on the horizon. This time the riders didn't linger at the fence. They came straight toward the farmhouse, confidence riding with them like a second shadow. Elias stood in the open, rifle lowered but ready. The horses stopped only yards away. "You had all night to think," the leader said. "We figured you'd make the smart choice." Elias didn't answer immediately. He glanced back at the cabin. Naya stood in the doorway again, refusing to be invisible. "The smart choice," Elias said finally, "isn't always the easy one." The leader's expression hardened. "That woman doesn't belong here." "She belongs to herself," Elias replied. One of the men shifted in his saddle, impatience clear. "Last chance," he said. "This land stays quiet or it doesn't." Elias felt the weight of the moment press down on him, not fear but clarity. He raised his voice, not shouting, but letting it carry. "You don't control this place," he said, "and you don't control people with fear anymore." From the corner of his eye, Elias saw movement. Two neighboring ranchers approached from different directions, rifles slung, faces set. Elias had ridden to them during the night, speaking plainly, not asking for help, asking for truth to be seen. The riders noticed too late. The balance shifted. The leader's smile vanished. He scanned the growing number of witnesses and understood the danger had changed. "This isn't over," he muttered. "It is for today," one of the ranchers replied. The riders backed away, turning their horses without ceremony and retreating across the plains. No shots fired, no blood spilled, just fear exposed and weakened by daylight. Later that afternoon, the sheriff arrived. Elias told the story again, calmly, clearly. Naya spoke too, naming names, refusing silence. "I won't promise quick justice," the sheriff said, "but I will promise this won't be ignored." When the law rode away, the land felt different, lighter, as if a long-held breath had been released. That evening, Elias and Naya sat outside, watching the sun dip low. The danger wasn't gone, but something had changed. Standing up had a cost, but so did staying silent. And Elias knew which price he was willing to pay. The days that followed passed in a cautious calm. Elias returned to his routine, mending fences, checking the well, tending the small patch of land he hoped to farm. Yet nothing felt ordinary anymore. Every sound carried meaning. Every shadow felt watched. The plains had not forgotten what had happened, and neither had he. Naya's strength returned slowly. She could move without support now, though pain still lived in her arm. Elias never asked how long she planned to stay. Out here, questions often forced answers people weren't ready to give. One evening, as the sky burned orange with sunset, Naya approached Elias near the barn. "I can't stay," she said softly. Elias stopped what he was doing but didn't turn around. "You're safer here than out there," he replied. "For now," she said, "but danger follows me, you know that." He did. Elias finally faced her. "You didn't choose any of this." Naya shook her head. "No, but I can choose what happens next." They prepared in silence. Elias traded supplies at a nearby post, food, water, a fresh blanket, and a strong horse. He told no one where she was going. Some truths were safer unspoken. On the morning she left, the land was quiet, the sky wide and clear. Elias helped her mount the horse, careful with her injured arm. "You gave me more than shelter," Naya said. "You gave me time." Elias met her eyes. You gave yourself that by surviving. She reached into a small pouch and pressed a smooth, carved token into his hand. So you remember, she said, not the pain, the choice. He closed his fingers around it. Naya rode away without looking back, her figure shrinking against the endless plains. Elias stood there long after she disappeared, the silence settling in again. But it was no longer empty. Weeks passed. The sheriff returned once more, bringing news. One of the men had been arrested. Another had fled south. Stories were spreading. People were talking. You started something, the sheriff said. I just didn't stay quiet, Elias replied. Life continued. Travelers stopped by the farm now, some for water, some for work, some simply because the place felt safe. Elias offered help when he could, never asking questions that didn't matter. At night, Elias sometimes stood where the shed had collapsed, where everything had begun. The land showed no scars. It never did. It left that to people. Letting Naya go had cost him certainty. But holding onto her would have cost her freedom. And Elias knew he had chosen correctly. The plains stretched wide, carrying stories forward on the wind. Some were warnings. Some were reminders. And some were proof that doing the right thing, even once, could change more than you ever expected. Winter came early that year. Cold winds swept across the plains, bending the grass low and pressing against the farmhouse walls at night. Elias worked through it all, repairing the roof, reinforcing fences, stacking firewood higher than ever before. Work kept his hands busy and his thoughts steady. Yet some nights, when the wind howled just right, his mind returned to the road Naya had taken. He never expected to see her again. Then, one morning, a rider appeared at the edge of his land. Elias watched from the porch, heart steady but alert. As the horse drew closer, recognition settled in, not surprise, but something quieter. Naya dismounted carefully, stronger now, standing tall against the cold. You healed, Elias said simply. So did you, she replied. She had come with news. The men who once ruled through fear were gone, some arrested, some scattered, their hold broken. Communities had begun to speak openly. What had happened on Elias' land had become a turning point, passed along like a warning and a promise. I'm moving north, Naya said. There are people there who need help, land disputes, threats, silence. Elias nodded. They're lucky you found them. She smiled faintly. I learned something here. They stood quietly for a moment, the wind moving between them like an old companion. You could stay, Elias said, not as a request, not as a plea, just truth. Naya looked at the horizon. If I stayed, I'd stop moving forward, and you taught me not to do that. Elias accepted it. Some people were meant to pass through, not to be held, but to be remembered. Before leaving, Naya placed another carved token beside the first one on Elias' table. For balance, she said. She rode away again, disappearing into the wide world she refused to fear. Years later, travelers would speak of Elias' farm as a place where trouble didn't last, where people stood up when it mattered, where silence had been broken once and never fully returned. Elias never called himself a hero. He knew better. He was just a man who had heard someone say, "Do it, hurry up," and realized that sometimes action was the only answer left. The plains remained vast. The dangers never vanished entirely. But courage, once shown, had a way of echoing. And that was enough.